You know, the Flyover Conservative Podcast, something you hear us just drive home on a regular basis is the need for us, more than at any point in human history, to take personal responsibility for what's going on in your world. When it comes to your kids' education, you can't be like, well, the school was fine for me when I went there. I'm sure it's the same. The school's not the same as when you went there. When it comes to your medical and healthcare, you're like, well, I'm just kind of you better research it yourself and figure these things out. A lot of nations, they care enough about their citizens that they've outlawed GMOs. In America, no. We have a very quirky system where the people that you trust, you kind of go and you vote, and narrows it down. Is there a D or an R by their name? And you're like, well, I'm just going to vote for that person. And they really depend on that. And so when it comes to...
think about the lobbyists.
The lobbyists, who's ever going to pay them off, who's going to lean and get influence, they're more loyal to them often than they are to us. I've brought this up quite a few times because it's such a great illustration. But in Missouri, it's Republican pretty much from top to bottom, without exception, from governor all the way down to dog catcher. We had a bill come up in the state of Missouri, it's HB 1169, and all that it was going to do was say if they're putting mRNA technology in the meat, vaccine-based, mRNA technology in the meat, they should label it and tell us. They're not saying don't do it. They were just saying, hey, do us a solid. And if they're going to put that in the food that you're eating, they have to at least mark it and say it. Couldn't pass that in the state of Missouri.
In Missouri.
With solid Republicans top to bottom. So when you go to bed at night and you think, okay, I'm supposed to be focused on raising my kids, doing my job, doing things, and I've got somebody that I voted, they're representing my best interests, so they probably got that covered. Probably not. And there's things we're dealing with today as a society that your grandparents, their grandparents, go all the way back to Adam, never had to deal with. And because of that, we're seeing ailments pop up. A lot of you, check the box if it needs more anxiety, ringing in the ears, diseases and things that they're like, well, we can't really identify what's causing this, but this is the problem that you're dealing with. Well, what has changed? One of the biggest things that's changed around us is our air is now full of stuff you can't see. Wi-Fi signals, and we all, you're not supposed to build a house underneath of a set of power lines.
Right.
Like that causes a problem. We've created that kind of power line environment all around us all the times. We put them in our pockets. We sleep on our nightstands. Everything around us is full of these things. So again, if you can't trust the people that are in charge to protect you, you got to do it yourself. We're going to dive into that a little bit today with somebody who's given this a tremendous amount of thought in private and can bring this information to us and you in public. Miss Gina Paeth.
Yay!
Right.
Welcome back.
Well, I'm so glad to be back with you guys. It's so great.
We learned a lot last time you were on,
did.
and it was it's one of these things, like, I'm glad I know that. It also kind of freaks me out.
A little sobering.
A little disturbing. But talk to us about what is in the air around us, because I think people are aware when you drive down, especially during COVID, you go down the road and just towers went up on both sides of the road. And our homes and the air everywhere we drive is just full of technology and energy and electric pulses that are being blasted at people, and they're struggling. People are struggling with, I got a lot of issues, and my kids are struggling with things. We have infertility. There's a lot of things that are like brand new to us in this long timeline of human history.
Yes, this is a real problem, and we need to draw attention to this more than ever, because we're seeing these hundreds of thousands of cell towers and small cell towers and our Wi-Fi ramp up. And this is it's not going away. It's only increasing. And we've gone from 2G, 3G, 4G, now 5G. And we wonder where all of this is taking us. But the problem that we really see is there's just not a lot of people that are doing the tests as they roll this out. Like, why are we pushing for faster and faster speeds when we haven't done the test right now to see if it's okay to move to the next speed? And so we just all have easily accepted Wi-Fi in our homes. We've accepted smart meters on the side of our house. And for most of us, we don't realize these EMFs around us are causing damage to our DNA. And we can't see it. So when you can't see something, it's easy to think, oh, there's no problem.
Yeah.
And David was kind of mentioning before he brought you on, there's some things that are going on physically that people are experiencing that could be from what's in the air. Can you touch on that a little bit more? What are some of the things that you're hearing about that people are experiencing?
Yeah, I hear from people all over the world, and most common side effects would be a headache or ringing in the ears, heart palpitations. There are some individuals, they're so sensitive that they can't have any electronics in their house. They've had to completely remove everything. And now, as you guys have seen the towers going up, you have to be aware of where these towers are so that you can begin to mitigate the frequencies, because they're not just in your home anymore. They're coming from outward. And then, of course, the 5G satellites. I mean, there's so much going on. So it's not just a few little things in our house anymore, where we were just thinking about the microwave, right? We were worried about the microwave at first. And should I really use this? And most of us did. I did it for years. And now mine's unplugged.
And we're hearing about that. That was a big thing. We had Dr. Jana on several times, Dr. Jana Schmidt, and she talked about the microwave and the effects that it has on people. We're like, don't stand in front of it.
Right.
When we were little, we used to look inside of it.
How's it
going? Is it working? I'm like, oh my gosh, crazy.
It was. I remember one time I was watching a show, and it was over. With that like Apple TV box, and the microwave came on, and the signal was messed up when the microwave, was on. And I'm like, man, my brain's right in between all of this. But we're doing so many of those things. You have Apple AirPods, and there's so much going on. We can't see it. It's like natural gas. They add something to it so you can smell if there's a gas leak. Naturally, you can't. It's kind of a silent, deadly killer, and it can lead to explosions and different things like that. So they put an additive to it so you can kind of tell. When we had you on before, you actually did a demonstration and showed, because if you can't see this stuff, you're like, well, it's an invisible enemy.
Yes, and I think every one of us should own some type of a meter where we can measure our home. And I have several. I have one here. This one has no sound, but it's fairly accurate on the RF radiation in your home. I like that version, but I also love this one here that actually you can hear it. So this is crazy. I mean, it's so ridiculous, the sounds that you hear from these frequencies. And I think hearing is believing sometimes, because we hear people talk about it, but when you actually hear the frequencies, that's when it really hits home. This is real.
So do that again. Pull it far away, and then when you're bringing it closer to you, what's causing that? I don't know what's around you.
Yeah, so right now, because I have all my Wi-Fi running, which I normally don't, but when I get closer, look at that. Pull away. Now, with the Wi-Fi router covers, I think I showed you guys this before, but I love this because it actually...
Wow.
Now pull it out. So that, we need to mitigate the frequencies on our Wi-Fi, because that is one of the most powerful items in our home. And many people are waking up at night from the Wi-Fi itself. And they'll have Wi-Fi routers in their bedroom. And I'm like, oh, goodness, you need to get that moved. Like if you can, try to even get away from Wi-Fi, hardwire your items, which I have done. The only reason I use Wi-Fi right now is just for this podcast. But normally I have my laptop plugged into the Ethernet. So the Wi-Fi router covers are critical for sleeping at night. You can just drape that right over. Another thing you can do is just keep it on there. Depending on how strong your Wi-Fi router is, it will mitigate those frequencies, or it might just block some of it, and you'll still get enough, coverage in your house so that you can still use your electronics. So you have to play with it a little bit.
What is a mesh extender? What is that?
So the mesh is actually just the fabric. It's the copper material, and it goes right over the router.
Okay.
So you can just literally drop it right over the top. And you'll see if you can, put it all the way down, and then you'll go check your electronics and see if you have enough coverage to do your work. If you don't, you can just lift up about an inch on the copper, and then you should have a nice sweet.
So if you have like a main router in your home, but a lot of people will have, like the separate satellite, Wi-Fi extenders. They may put them up in their attic or in the upstairs or in other parts, so you can still get signal. So what would be the practice, the daily method of operation then? Would you just put that on there mainly like if you need to go to bed at night, stuff like that? A third of your life, give or take a little bit, you spend in bed. So do you try to cover it up when you're not using it at night?
So what I had to do, because I'm more sensitive and I can hear the ringing, I had to turn off my Wi-Fi at night, and I just put it on a Christmas timer, had it turn off at 11 and back on at 6 in the morning. And then I would use the cover during the day just to completely mitigate the frequency, as I didn't have another option. So Wi-Fi was my main source. So if that is your main source, you definitely want to use the cover in that situation.
Wow, that's amazing. What is that made of? Like, what is it that blocks things, so people could just like get a big chunk of aluminum foil and stick it over it or something? Or like what's in that? Put a hat for your head made out of aluminum foil. That's kind of become famous.
It's amazing, but the copper, it's just a polyester material, but it's got copper interwoven in it.
Okay.
You could do aluminum foil, but the problem is you're going to block too much. So, this is nice because you can still get a little bit of frequency to get your electronics working. Everybody talks about aluminum foil, but I've got the hats too. You guys know I have hats.
Yep.
They are silver hats. So
so it's actually silver woven into it. How much silver?
So this one is about 50 something percentage. So this is a nice material with the cotton. And I really recommend this, like just in the winter. People don't even know you're wearing a silver hat. It's amazing. The baseball hats are wonderful too. Those are, every guy wears a baseball hat every now and then. And even us women, every now and then we're putting on a baseball hat. So, those are great. No one would even know that you're wearing a silver fabric underneath there.
That is so cool. Okay, let's talk a little bit about grounding. Right now, obviously, not as nice to go out and walk in the grass, but that is something that comes spring, summer, fall, literally in between interviews, I will go out and walk in the grass for grounding, and I feel so much better when I do that. You actually have a way that you don't have to go outside and walk in the grass. So talk about grounding, why is that significant, and then what do you have to help people to do that?
Yeah, and actually, what is grounding? People are familiar with that term, but it's a little bit like, kind of, it's a little out there. Is it a legit thing, or is it kind of, how much is it actually scientifically helpful?
Yeah, grounding and earthing is actually peer reviewed. This has been known for years to be beneficial to our health. When you
you've heard it from an expert.
Yes, but you've now documentation.
And look at our pets. Our pets want to be out in the grass. They want to be grounded. They're telling us something too. Our pets are very smart and they love to be grounded. If you were to put a mat in your home, they would find that mat and they would want to be on it. I've heard so many stories of pets that gravitate to the mat, or they won't get off the bed anymore because the mat's on the bed, and great stories. So pets know it's good. They have that sixth sense. But, we can't be out in the grass. I'm in Minnesota right now. I can't be in the grass.
Yep. Right. Sad.
All year round. So there is the benefit of these negative ions, these healthful negative ions that are healing our bodies. And we don't touch the earth anymore. So we live in our insulated environments, our rubber sole shoes. The Indians had moccasins. We had leather sole shoes for years. Do you remember when we were little? There was always a leather shop where you could get your soles changed on your shoes. That's when we saw less health issues. People were not having the pain issues and the inflammation and so forth. So grounding is critical. In this environment, with extreme EMF, we must be grounded. It is number one in to-do list. So I actually have a mat here that I use at my computer. I use it one on underneath my laptop, and then I use one on the floor for my feet. So if I'm moving around, I have one hand or foot or something on my mats. Those are wonderful, but I'm going to show you how they work. I think I showed you this last time, but it's so great. And people love this little test. And you can do this at home as well. So I'm just using a basic multimeter, and I'm going to hold one end, the red probe, and then I have the black probe plugged into the ground. So right now in my body, I have 3.3 volts, and this is an AC, right in my body right now, just sitting here.
Mm-hmm.
When I touch the mat,
Wow.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
So it's amazing how much electricity we're carrying in our bodies at any given time. And if we're in a group of people like at a conference or some large event like a football game, our electricity can explode. And then we're getting headaches and we're wondering why we have heart palpitations and get maybe dizzy. We don't understand that these frequencies and this electricity in our body is causing this to happen. And we're having biological effects from these frequencies. So being grounded releases that electricity from our body. It's amazing how God made everything, isn't it? I mean, think about it. He made us to be touching the earth, and he did that for a reason.
That is so cool.
Healing.
Yeah, you go to.
Is it the same mat too, Gina, that you're using? The one that you put under your computer is the same as the one that you put on the floor?
Yes, I do. It's the same size. There's a couple different sizes on the website. You'll see a 10 by 12 or this 26 by 10. And they're wonderful. That you can use these to sit on. You can put it in a pet bed. And then there's different sizes that go up from there. You saw the pet mat, that's 26 by 35. It's a little bit larger. That can be used for a child's bed as well. You just want to make sure that when you're using that grounding cord that you hide that whenever it's in a child's bedroom. Okay. So you can just wrap that under their bed so they're not playing with that cord. And then also for pets as well, you want to try to hide the cords.
This is so fascinating because
it is.
Our world is so far from the Garden of Eden. You know, when you talk about how far away from you did the food you eat come from? You know, how long was it transported? What do they do to make it still look good? You know, all of these things. And even if you go to church, you're in church, there's a couple of hundred people, all have their cell phones on. There's the microphones in the front and the extenders back behind you, and project like even a church setting where you kind of come and relax, and you know, it's a spiritual environment. You want to connect, you know, with God, but you're in an environment that's full of EMFs.
Yes. And you know, what's really amazing is, you know, I'm a believer, and I really know the Lord led me to this and wants me to be sharing this message with people, because we are made of frequency. Our Father there's frequencies. He spoke and the world was created. I mean, all of these things are critical, even for our spiritual life. You know, we need to be connected to the earth, healing, and be able to have peace in our life. You know, when you can't sleep at night, your body just declines and it affects everything. When you're not sleeping and you're waking up numerous times, that starts to affect your spirit life as well. Yeah. You know, so it goes into everything.
That's huge. And you also have, it's important. It is. It's true. You also have sheets, which is a big seller. And they're made out of silver. Is that right? Like spun silver?
Yes, and this has 10% silver. This is actually, it runs just real fine lines, but this also grounds you and shields you. So it does both. It's not as much shielding, but it's more grounding. And I love these. They're just perfect for, you know, a fitted sheet on your bed. The one that you're seeing right there is the 35% silver, and that one is a flat sheet. And that's great for traveling. I use that every time I travel now. It's wonderful. And then we have the stainless steel fabric that's a little bit harsher, but that's great for blocking if you're going to use a bed canopy. So that's something that you can use on the floor or something underneath a mattress.
And
So
I want to
those are
bring that up too, because that is for people that have antennas or towers around them. And you gave us a website and we started looking it up, and we live outside in a suburb of Kansas City. So we don't live in Kansas City. We live in a suburb
There's
of
open
Kansas
fields
City.
all around us. You can deer hunt within a mile of our house.
Yeah. Open fields everywhere, and we were shocked. So within three miles of the downtown area of Lee Summit, which we're not very far from there, there's 177 towers and 258 antennas. That is a major problem. Talk about that and why these canopies are so
if you're
important.
in New York, LA,
Oh my
Dallas,
gosh.
Something like that, it's going to be a lot more.
Yeah, it's so sad that they're literally throwing these up over people's homes, over daycares, over 55 and older parks. My parents have a cell tower right over their 55 and older park. It's so insidious that this is happening. But when you have this, and you need to go and see how many towers are within 3 miles, and the ones that are within a mile of your home, those are the most dangerous. So you do need to begin to mitigate those frequencies. Getting a meter, measuring where your hot spots are is going to be critical. And then from there, if you have a bedroom that's high RF radiation, then you're going to need to get that bed canopy. That's something that you're going to want to have. It seems amazing that we have to do these things, but this is where our world is going. We're going to need to mitigate frequencies more than we ever have. And there's the box canopies, which are wonderful. You feel a little bit more open inside, but there's also the circular version that many people love to get as well, because you can just pull that back behind your bed during the day, your headboard. So those are nice as well. There's many different versions. And these have been sold all over the world, and thousands of people have them now. It's not just one or two. It's many, many, many people are investing in these canopies right now.
So to find out if you have antennas or towers around your house, Gina gave us a website. It's antennasearch.com, antennasearch.com. And you can just put in the address of your home and all of that, and it'll tell you how far they are from your house. One thing you told us, Gina, is that if you are on not the main level of your home, so if you have a basement or you're on the second floor of a home, that you need something underneath of your bed as well to protect you. And that's where you were recommending the stainless steel flat sheet. Is that right?
Yes, you can use the stainless steel flat sheet as a bottom layer protection on your floor, or you can put it underneath your fitted sheet. There's varying opinions on what people like to do. It really comes down to your personal preference. But on anything other than a ground level home, with a ground level slab, you need to have a underlayer body protection. So that would be 4 sides completely blocking. So when you get up into that second floor, EMF or RF can come right up underneath you. So you'll see a drastic change when you take this canopy and you put this meter inside. When you have just the 3 sides, you can see a definite change in blockage when you use the underbody protection.
Okay, so where do you get those meters? Do you know where to get it?
No.
Now, where would somebody get a meter like that?
They're all over Amazon. They're so huge right now, you guys. Everybody's buying them. They're starting to really get the idea that this is something that they need. You can get them on Amazon. If for those of you who don't want to buy on Amazon, there's other means to get these. So just, search and you'll be able to find them. You don't want to go real cheap on these meters. You want to spend a little bit, because the little bit more you spend on these, you're going to get more accurate readings. And I think that's important. So there are some cheapies out there, of course, just like everything, right? So,
and what's the meter called? What would you put in, like if you were searching for it?
RF or EMF meter. And some people like the tri-field. There's another one that's similar to this one. This is actually a 10 MAR, and there's a small one that's in black like this. And there's a gentleman who's actually done a video on this, and he shows the readings, and that's wonderful. You can find that at redemptionshield.com too. But yeah, these are just all wonderful things that you need to begin to put in your toolbox.
That is so good. And, you have amazing prices. You actually have great sales that are going on right now, but you've also extended for the Flyover family another 10% off, which is absolutely amazing. Yeah. So you already get the sale price and now an extra 10% off. That is fabulous. So Flyover family, when you go to redemptionshield.com and use promo code FLYOVER, you get another 10% off.
Which is great. A lot of people are worried about these things. So if you got anxiety, when you got heart palpitations, you got ringing in your ears, trouble sleeping, all of these things go towards degrading your health over time. So if you know about this stuff and it's kind of like, well, where do I go? Who do I turn to? We know and trust Gina. I've had a lot of interactions with her. Her products have many times the amount of silver lining and different things to protect them than just generic products online, because her goal was solving a problem for herself, and then now it's just extending it to the world because it made such a big difference. So Gina, we'd love what you're doing. This is something I think people are going to be increasingly more concerned of. Probably future generations will look back and like, what were they thinking? Yes. Like we joke about staring into the microwave, wondering when things were cooking when we were little. Like we'll probably all look back and think, our homes are full of this stuff. What were we thinking? Sort of just playing with fire in a way that we probably don't even realize at this point. And I, again, don't know that our elected officials, people that we put in charge of these committees, people that should be protecting us, I don't know that they are losing a lot of sleep over, our best interests being at play. So we do have to take these things into our own hands. I'm glad you equip us to do that.
I'm so glad to be able to be on your show. And I I'm so grateful to be part of this process to help people find healing in their bodies. And this is a time we have to keep healing, keep protecting ourselves. So thank you so much, you guys. Make sure to use the Flyover code. And I just really wish you the best in your endeavors.
Absolutely. Redemptionshield.com. It's in the notes below, no matter where you're watching or listening to this. If you're on Apple or any other podcast platform, again, in the show notes, redemptionshield.com. Use promo code FLYOVER and you get another 10% off of the sale prices in addition to it. So Gina, thanks so much for coming on today.
In a world where technology surrounds us, our exposure to EMR, or electromagnetic radiation, is higher than ever before, with over 400,000 cell towers and antennas in the United States alone, not to mention Wi-Fi that runs 24/7 in our home, cell phones that are carried in our pockets hours on end, and hundreds of 5G satellites in our orbit. Common complaints are ringing in the ear, sleep deprivation, heart palpitations, insomnia, and so much more. Start protecting yourself now. Introducing Redemption Shield, your EMF protection products. With over 700 5-star reviews, Redemption Shield is leading the way in shielding and grounding products, taking inflammation out of your body with grounding bed mats, grounding bed sheets, hats, scarves, Wi-Fi router covers, cell phone bags. Come and see us today at redemptionshield.com and get grounded and shielded. redemptionshield.com.